All right, hello and welcome to another Sales Chat. This is John Golden. I am the Chief Marketing Officer and Strategy at Pipeliner CRM, also Executive Editor of SalesPOP Online Sales Magazine. And today I'm delighted to welcome Joanne Black, who's in beautiful Marin County in San Francisco in the Bay Area. Morning, Joanne.
Good morning, John.
And as usual, I'm also joined by my colleague, Martha Neumeister, who is in lovely Vienna. How's the weather in Vienna today, Martha?
It's really wonderful.
Oh,
too
good.
hot, too hot.
Oh, no, Vienna's a beautiful city, so I'm sure in the sunshine it's even nicer. Okay, so for those of you who may not have experienced a sales chat before, it's a 30-minute rapid-fire conversation around one subject, which today is referral selling. If you want to join in on the conversation on Twitter, it's #SalesChats. So just go in there. Martha will be watching what's going on there. So anyway, as I said, today I'm joined by Joanne Black, and Joanne is America's leading authority on referral selling, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And this is the only business development strategy proven to convert prospects into clients more than 50% of the time. She's the founder of No More Cold Calling. She helps salespeople, sales teams, and business owners transform the way they work. A great speaker and an author of bestsellers No More Cold Calling, which is actually our book of the week on SalesPOP magazine. So go to the bookstore if you want to pick that up. And also another great book, Pick Up the Damn Phone, where she shows readers how to leverage the power of referrals. So again, welcome, Joanne, and let's get straight into it. Why is referral selling so important, and why is it still even a subject that we talk about as needing to do more of?
Well, if we didn't need to do more of it, we wouldn't talk about it. So the reason the reason is we look at what are the challenges sales leaders face, and they all tell me pretty much the same things, and they have for the past number of years. And the first is they say, we don't have enough qualified sales leads in the pipeline. They also, one sales leader said to me, well, Joanne, we have a great pipeline. Everything's qualified. We just don't have enough.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the opposite. They also tell me their salespeople aren't getting meetings at the right level. Mm-hmm. And the sales process just takes way too long. So when you look at those challenges, well, what happens when you get a referral? And a referral means you receive an introduction. Mm-hmm. So John, if I were to refer you, I would introduce you and communicate the business reason why someone should talk to you. That's very different than just getting a name. Now, sometimes that works. However, the introduction is what matters. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that's happened with you, John, when you've gotten introduced. So why do you like to get those introductions? What happens?
Yeah, well, as you know, it's credentialing. It's immediately there's a trust level there because there's a referred trust, right?
Right.
And so there's so many. It's warm, right? It's a warm connection, if you like.
Well, yes, people tell me that, and the trust is really important because we're only going to refer people that we trust to take care of our connections as they would. And so the trust, credibility, that what really happens is that salespeople, I think, at the one-call meeting. So that all the chatter today is, it takes, 7 to 18 touches to reach someone. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous. Why would I spend my time doing that when I can get introduced? I get the one-call meeting. It could be a phone call, it could be in person, doesn't matter. But that whole prospecting process that can take a really long time collapses. So the sales process collapses. People tell me when they get that introduction, they typically don't have competition, but if they do, they get the inside track, right? They know what's going on. But here's what happens. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that when we get a referral, they convert from prospect to client around 50% of the time. And in fact, that was what people told me for years until about 3 years ago. I was presenting to a large group in a company, And I ask people to vote with their feet. So they're going to stand up, and I say, when you get that introduction to the person you want to meet, what percent of the time does that prospect become a client? And I ask them to stand. Is it somewhere 30 to 40%? No one stands. Is it 50, 60%, something like that? Oh, about, I don't know, a handful stand. So at this point, I think I'm in big trouble. And then I say 70%, the room stands.
Wow.
And even at 90%. And that has been the stat. I spoke in London, I've spoken in the States, I spoke in Australia, same exact thing. When I conduct webinars, I work with clients, they're telling me it's 70% plus. So I had to think about why. What moves the needle? So I don't have any definitive research on this, but what I think is because everybody today is just typing away, right?
Yep.
And they're not having conversations. Those of us who are in there early get to shape the solution with the client. We have the inside track. And so the conversion rate is way higher.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think we've, while technology is a great enabler and all these communication tools is, it does create a lot of noise. It's too easy to do some things. So I think I think the pendulum's swinging back towards more direct communication. But let me ask you this, right? Okay, so you get, all the people stand up in the room, like 70%, it closes in some 90%. So you would think, wow, with that kind of success rate, everybody should be referral selling, right? So and you're a very busy person and lots of people like hire you to help them. So why are you still, why are you almost still in business? If it's so, if the success rate is so high, surely everybody should be doing it by now. What really is holding people back?
Well, John, that is very logical, what you just said. However, we're not logical.
Yeah.
So yes, it seems so apparent. Of course, we need to work this way. And what's happened is because it seems so obvious, sales leaders have said to me, well, one in particular said, Joanne, I just tell my people to go out and ask for referrals. So I said to him, how's that working for you? Dead silence, right? Because it doesn't work. So there's a lot of reasons, but the first is that it is a strategic initiative. So the head of sales needs to say that I have these challenges, which we just talked about, and I understand that a referral program, a referral initiative will address all of those challenges and more. And so they put that stake in the ground and say, this is our number one outbound prospecting approach, right? So everything we're doing stays. I mean, we're still going to have marketing doing what they do. We're going to, we're going to be using technology. It's a phenomenal tool, but the focus is going to be on the outbound referrals. So that's the first thing. The reason that people aren't using referral selling because it's so great. It hasn't been. It's been hit or miss. I mean, we get them. They come in, which is fantastic. But and I know, you can't just sit back and wait for the phone to ring.
Sure.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
So it's a strategic initiative. And in fact, I talked to a head of sales last week, and he said to me, my sales team, my inside sales, they're doing okay, but my enterprise group is really having challenges getting the meeting. And the old ways aren't working. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah. So he recognizes that there's a gap between what he wants his salespeople to do and what's happening. So I'm meeting with him next week to close the gap. And the conversation we're going to have with him is about strategy. So that's number one.
Yeah. So just important for everybody listening is that the most important first step, because I like to give people practical steps. The first is to make it a strategic initiative. I mean, really put this up, not as just a throwaway, well, get referrals if you can, but make it a strategic initiative.
Strategy is an overused term. And what in the heck does that mean? Well, it means, yes, we're gonna put that stake in the ground. We are going to set goals around referrals. We're going to measure referrals. And the second piece is that referral selling is actually a skill. So a lot of people don't recognize. And that's why when you go just tell people, it doesn't happen. It's a behavior change. There's a way to ask to get the introduction. And that's just not the way people are asking. And what holds them back, to address your question, that a really big reason is personal rejection. So when you think about it, referral selling is the most personal kind of, I have my ears are misshapen, these never stay. It's the most personal kind of selling we can do, right? We're really putting our reputation on the line. And so people just don't ask because they're, well, what if I ask? Oh, this is a busy person, it's a client, and they have all these reasons. So they don't ask, and they'll say, I forgot. Well, no, I don't think people forget. I think they just chose not to remember. And that's different. So it's this fear of personal rejection that also holds people back. And then people tell me, I don't know how to ask. It's not part of our sales process. It needs to be part of our sales process. We have to have metrics about referrals. And going back to the strategy piece, people need to be accountable for results. Right. So it is a behavior change. So 1, it's a strategy. 2, it's a skill. And 3, like any behavior change in any strategy, it needs to be reinforced. Yes. Part of the way we work, and it has to be coached. So without that, well, it doesn't become the way we work. So strategy, skills, and implementation. Those are the 3 things that must happen.
Right. Okay, so you touched on something there. Let's just go back on. You said some people don't know the right way to ask. So what are some of the right ways to ask for referral?
Well, I'm going to tell you how not to first. I had this conversation with a client yesterday, and what a lot of people say because of this personal rejection, they'll typically say, well, if you know anyone who could benefit from my services, please let them know, right? I mean, you've heard that. We've all done that. All right, so what does that accomplish? What it accomplishes is, well, I checked it off my list. But it doesn't do anything because the person doesn't know the business reason to refer you. They don't know who you're looking for, all of that. So and it's so much easier today to take a look at who people are connected to and figure out if that person knows someone. So the way to ask is, who are 1 or 2 people you know who I should meet? Who is someone you can introduce me to? But you need to ask that question after you've clarified exactly who you want to meet and the business reason why. Because I'm going to introduce you, John, because I know you're a nice guy. Even though you don't speak American English, it's okay.
Barely speak English at all.
Oh, well, there you go. But that's not the reason someone's going to take a meeting with you. Sure. They're going to take a meeting with you because I've communicated that when you talk to John, here's what he can deliver. Here's the business reason. Here's how he addresses the challenges that you're facing. I have to communicate that. And that's the first thing I need to know. What's a business reason? Who do you want to meet? Who do I know? And then I'll make the introduction. But who is the question? Instead of, well, do you know anybody? Oh, here, do you know anybody who could benefit from my services? Oh, please don't ask that.
So here's a follow-up question. So that's the way to ask, right? Here's something that I often find is when you start to talk about looking for referrals and you talk to sales managers or salespeople, the next thing you get is, yeah, well, I want to give it some time, until everybody thinks working perfectly and it's very successful and our relationship is good, and then I'll ask, right? So there's always this thing about timing, and it's always in the future, right? Tends to be nicely in the future. But what is the right time, or is there a right time to ask for referral?
Oh, that's an interesting and important question. So what happens is, like you said, a lot of people wait. They'll say, oh, I can't ask. We just signed the deal. No,
Yeah.
I have to wait till we do implement. No, to wait till we get results. Well, by then it's usually too late because we're so far away from the buyer. And here's where the opportunities that salespeople miss is we have had contact with many different people during the buying process, for most of us.
Right.
And we're not asking anybody. Now, if they've chosen you to work with you, you've earned the right to ask. There's a reason they made that selection. Now, the other piece is that, you know, some people we connect with right away. You know, you just made that great connection. And, you know, so we need to be asking everyone. And what happens is that the more sophisticated our solution, we think, you know, that person wouldn't know anybody. But they do. So we only know about people, about what they share with us, what they put as an example on their LinkedIn profile. We have no idea who their next door neighbor is, you know, who their running partner is, what their hobby is, who they went to college with, who were some of their connections at a previous job. We you know, we don't know any of that. Who their brother-in-law is, we don't know this. So we need to be asking everyone during that buying process. The other, then we're in the implementation process. And, you know, clients will often say, that's a great idea. I never thought of that. Thank you for sharing that. So it's the insights we provide. Another great time to ask, but don't wait till everything's completed and then you're just too far away.
Right. So it sounds like, and I would underline this point. It sounds like, you know, that during the sales process, and particularly as you're closing the sale, or that there are so many networking opportunities that crop up because of the fact, as you say, in most B2B sales nowadays, you're dealing with more than one person. So you could have 3, 5, you could have 10 people that you interact with, and every one of those provides you with an opportunity to ask for a referral if you do it in the right way.
Exactly. You know, and think about it. You know, if I'm calling in the enterprise or even in the SMB space, man, how many new clients do I need in a year?
Right.
You know? And so if you just do the numbers, and so you mentioned 10 people, so you are exposed to 10 people during the buying process, and say that you ask all in the right way, and let's just be really conservative. Say that 6 of them offer to make an introduction. The other 4 say, you know, I'd really like to, can't think of anybody right now.
Sure.
There could be reasons for that. Let's say 6 introduce you, and it could be to other areas of the company. So the internal referrals are just as important as their counterparts in other companies. Say 6. And so just say with a 50% conversion rate, you've got 3 new clients. So you need to work backwards and really double it. So if I need 10 new clients this year, that I'm not going to just ask 20 people. I need to ask 40 people, and define who they are, because that's very, very conservative. But what it also does with a referral, it gives us the opportunity to reconnect with people that perhaps we haven't spoken with in a while. It's just an amazing process. And by the way, it's great fun because we're talking to people who want to talk to us. You know, I mean, what's better than that?
Yeah, it's interesting if you say that. It's like, you know, maybe to get 4 or 5 or whatever, you know, maybe you need to ask 40 people, and you know, some people may see that as well. That's a lot, you know, that's a lot of asking I got to do. But we're fine with blasting 10,000 people who we don't know with requests for meetings, right? As opposed to asking 40 people that we do know to give us referrals.
Well, that's it, because it's so personal. And when you look at, you know, it's not about quantity as much as the quality. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't reach out and marketing shouldn't do their job, and all that, you know, that's all important. But as an account executive, it's my job to prospect, to qualify my own leads. And so here's what happens, John. I see as a problem today, especially in software sales, that I'm an account executive, I sell a deal, I hand it off to customer success or to account management, and then I move on.
Right.
Well, excuse me, you've missed this opportunity to connect with all the people. You've built a relationship in that account. And so there's a way that some organizations are organized that really, puts a barrier to asking for an account executive. Right. And so I'd ask if people are listening and in that position to take another look at the responsibilities of your account executives and your account-based sellers.
Yeah, that's a great point. So could you, you've had so much experience and you've done this with so many different organizations and, all parts of the globe. Can you give me some examples? Because I know our listeners and viewers would love some examples of where you've seen this work really well and you've had dramatic results, and what happened that changed the whole dynamic?
So much. So an example is, I was referred to a company recently by someone I know. I didn't ask him. He knew very well what I did. And he was working with a company, and they were looking at their outbound sales approach. And what this company said to him is, we're going to hire an organization to cold call for us.
Right.
And so my colleague said, wait, before you do that, you need to talk to Joanne Black. And he made the introduction. So I talked to the head of sales, and she communicated that they liked referrals, but they really weren't sure how to make referrals work every day and for them to scale their business like they needed to. They didn't really like cold calling, but they weren't sure what else to do or how to do it. So fast forward 30 days, deal was signed, and it worked with the CEO of the company. It's a mid-sized company, and absolutely transformed their business. Immediately, the head of sales, because she had account responsibilities as well, was getting introductions. She had all these meetings set up with the right people, and that wasn't the first time she met with them. She had relationships. She wasn't asking. And she asked, she got the referrals, and it just went on and on. And so they got, so here's what the CEO wrote, because of course I asked each of them to write a testimonial for me on LinkedIn. And what the CEO said, he said that, all good things about how they were able to clarify their ideal client, how the coaching worked and all of that. But then he said, it's no coincidence we're having our best year yet. And so that's an example. It doesn't take forever, but it takes that commitment and understanding. I have another client who this really, they truly didn't have a sales culture. And so to start, because everybody in many cases say sales, right? Oh no, I'm not a seller, because and it's getting worse today.
Yeah. By the way,
right?
just sorry to interrupt you, but it's interesting that Nicholas Kim, our CEO, he's done this twice in breakfast seminars that I've been with him, where everybody in the room is from sales pretty much, and he's asked them how many people have sales on their business card, and nobody puts their hands up. And I'm always like, and I always follow that up with, I'm always like, oh, guess what? Everybody knows you're a salesperson. You're not fooling anyone. But anyway, sorry.
Well, yes, and I remember being there when it was they put marketing instead of sales, right? Because they didn't, or I don't know what they put, but it was something that didn't show sales, right? Because sales has a bad name, because we have this aggressive, pushy, in-your-face salespeople, and good salespeople are not that way, and that's why referrals are so important, because we're engaging people to introduce us, and it's very, it's collaborative, it's respectful, And it's the way to get business, just like that. So I don't know if that answers your question about
No,
how things work. Yeah.
It does. And let me ask you another follow-up question. So, because you talked about the fear of personal rejection. The other part that I often hear is when you ask salespeople, they say, yes, I asked them for a referral, but they didn't know anybody and they move on. So a lot of people feel that it's a one-time thing. And let's face it, I mean, there are times, if you ask me something right now, I may not off the top of my head think of someone, but maybe if you ask me in 6 months' time, maybe I would. So talk to me a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people, as you say, it's a check mark, but also a lot of people feel it's a one-time thing. I can only ask you for a referral once.
Yeah, so here's the thing. If I ask you for a referral and you say, Joanne, I can't think of anybody, love to help. All right. I take it upon me that perhaps I haven't described as crisply who I want to meet. I haven't done a good job.
Right.
And that's often the case. Now, that being said, maybe you weren't expecting this conversation, so you might need to think about it. And that's always a little tricky, but what I do is say, how about if I send you something in writing and follow up with you in, say, a month or 3, whatever we agree on. The reason in writing is that, you've heard me ask, John, but I can't think of anybody right now. But if I write something to you in an email and focus on the business reasons, focus on how my solution addresses those challenges, then you very well might think of someone. So that's truly, I take that responsibility first.
And then the other thing is, I mean, to think about if you, the longer your relationship with the customer or whatever goes on, the more people they're meeting too, right? So it's always a good thing to come back again and say, oh, yeah, have you met anybody recently who fits the criteria, whatever the criteria you say. Yeah. Well, listen, this has been great because we're bumping up against the half-hour mark. But I always want to get this question in before the end because our viewers and listeners love this. Is the power tip, right? What do you, Joanne Black, do every day when you get up to set yourself up for success for the day? What's one thing you do?
So my mantra is, I do what's closest to cash every day.
I love that.
We get so distracted with everything. So it could be I have to finish a proposal. It could be I need to reach out to this person, or I need to see what they've written and make comment on their posts. Things that are going to move this process along. That's what I focus on.
I love that. Closest to cash.
Yes.
So Joanne, tell the viewers and listeners where they can or how they can contact you, and where they can find out more about you.
My website is nomorecoldcalling.com. And my email is Joanne, JOANNE, at nomorecoldcalling.com. And because I love talking to people, my phone number is area code 415-461-8763. And that is Pacific time for those of you who are time challenged. But when I'm not in my office, it's fine. You can call anytime and I will call you back. Oh, and what I'd also appreciate, and here's another thing about building relationships, is if you'd follow me on Twitter at Referral Sales, you'll get more tips. Invite me to connect with you on LinkedIn, but do it with a personal message.
Right.
That's how we start to build relationships. Say, oh, you listened to this Twitter chat, you like the conversation, just say something so I know how we're connected, and I will give you a personal response. We will start a conversation.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I would highly recommend that you get Joanne's books. As I said, they're on SalesPOP.pipelinersales.com. It's featured in the bookstore, Joanne's a regular contributor to SalesPOP and widely read. So I would encourage you to look at her posts as well. Listen, Joanne, this has been fantastic. I mean, I think we could talk for hours and hours about this subject, but I think this is great, and I think the listeners and viewers are going to get a lot out of this. So really appreciate you joining us today. And Martha, thank you for keeping everything running there from Station Vienna.
Welcome.
All right. Well, listen, we'll see you all again for another sales chat soon. This is John Golden from Pipeliner CRM and salespop.pipelinersales.com. And again, thanks to Joanne. Thanks, Martha. Great session this morning.
Bye.
Bye.